It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
We love answering your questions on the Happy Families podcasts. You can email us podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. That's podcasts with an S at happyfamilies.com.au. Send us a voice memo. Let us know what's on your mind, what you're struggling with, what the challenges are that your kids are presenting for you. We received this one from Beth.
Hi, Happy Families team. I loved your recent episode on pornography and porn-proofing your children. And I'd already recently just bought the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures books, but I hadn't read them yet because of some questions my son has already had and I'm not exactly sure how to answer. When it comes to things like art, like, the Statue of David, like when we're traveling, or when you see like photos of Indigenous nations where the people don't have any clothes on, I'm finding it hard to put words around the difference between pornography and nakedness. And also, if my son sometimes asks, like, why can boys wear no t-shirts and girls can't? So, I was wondering if you had any insights around those two to make it more understandable. My son's only 6 and he has come to me. He actually saw like a game that had a baby wearing a nappy, and he came to me and he told me my friend's watching someone that's naked. So he's onto it, but I would love if you had any advice around the kind of grey areas and about, our bodies and limits with children. Thank you. Bye.
This is such an important question. Our children are going to be exposed to skin, to naked bodies, and we know statistically that they're likely to be exposed to explicit content, to pornography. Research tells us really clearly, Kylie, that kids are going to, 90+% of our boys will be exposed to pornography by the age of 15, about 70% of girls. The numbers vary depending on which stats you're looking at, which studies you're looking at. And the average age of exposure is still believed to be somewhere around about 11. Our children, if they've got smartphones, are literally walking around with pornography in their pocket. And you couple that with the fact, in Beth's case, she's talking about a 6-year-old. So we need to talk about little kids here as well. But kids are curious about bodies. Kids of all ages are curious about bodies. That's why 3 and 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds play doctors and nurses. And it's why teenagers look at pornography. So we need to talk about, I guess, the difference between nudity, what's artful, and what is pornographic. Maybe we can start there.
So the definition I have for nudity is literally just the state of being nude.
Okay, so not having any clothes on, that's nude. And therefore we've got to be able to teach our children that that's okay.
Yeah.
At appropriate times, in appropriate places.
Normalising nudity.
Does that mean we should be doing more nudie runs through the living room?
No, but I also feel like sometimes, every family's different, but sometimes we kind of act like it's a really bad thing if we're seen naked.
Yes, yeah.
And it's not. And
I'm guilty. If the kids walk into the bathroom when I'm in the bathroom, because unfortunately sometimes they just don't knock, or they like they
what do you
just
mean sometimes? They never knock, and then they wonder why our door's locked all the time.
But I feel like I have an obligation. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't feel like with 6 daughters that they're supposed to be walking in and out of the bathroom when I'm in there. But if nudity is not a problem, then maybe I make a bigger deal of it than I should. This is a really interesting conversation and question for me. Conversely, my parents were pretty comfortable with nudity. They walked around way too nude, way too much. Seriously, Mum and Dad, far out. Maybe that's why I am the way I am, because I remember. Now I'm remembering it again and I'm feeling a little bit tormented. Anyway, so that's nudity.
So
nudity is the state of undress.
Because my dad was the same when we were growing up.
You're one of 3 girls.
Yeah, and when I was growing up, my dad always made sure that he was fully covered and he would never let us walk into the bathroom or the bedroom.
Modesty.
Modesty. While he was getting dressed or anything like that. On the other hand, my mum, because we're a household of girls, was a completely different story. And so she might be having a bath or a shower and we'd walk in and have a conversation with her.
And I think my mum was just like, I gave birth to you. I can do whatever I want.
And I've kind of raised our kids similar. I don't hide the fact that I'm naked, and for the most part, I'm okay with that. It's interesting because I know that now that we have a married daughter and she'll come home and she'll be talking to me and you'll walk in and go, hang on a sec, your mum's naked, get out.
Yeah.
And it's become a very normalised, a naked body is just that. It's just naked.
Okay, so we've covered off nudity, but then there's nude art. That is, there's artwork that says we are glorifying the majesty, the miracle of the human body. So that's stuff like the statue of David, you've got the Sistine Chapel, the roof of the Sistine Chapel, and there's so much more that's out there. But I guess what Beth's question is, it gets a little bit blurry. It gets a little bit hazy with artistic photography, especially maybe some of the nude photography and maybe even some portraits and things. I mean, every now and again you'll go into somebody's house and there'll be a nude portrait, a nude painting or artwork on the wall. And I know with our kids when that's happened, they've looked at me and they're like, oh, there's boobies on the wall or something like that. Like, it's really shocked them. And we have elected not to have that kind of stuff on the wall, but is it pornographic? What's the definition of pornography that you found?
Pornography is any material containing explicit descriptions. So this could be written material or displays of sexual organs or sexual activity intended to stimulate sexual excitement. So the big word in here for me is intent.
Intention, yeah.
But I also think there needs to be, I don't know if caveat's the right word, but it also depends on the viewer's intent.
Right. What am I looking at it for?
That's right. And so for a 6-year-old kid...
Yeah, probably not looking at it for anything except curiosity.
That's exactly right. And I guess for me, that's where it becomes grey. Because what is pornographic to one person may not be pornographic to another person.
So this is kind of tricky as well, though, because we've got to have some sensibility about this, some reality about this. I mean, Australia's a pretty liberal country. We're pretty relaxed about things. I've had conversations with some people who have said, you can't go down to the beach these days. It's just a pornography scene on the beach. Okay, but most of Australia is pretty relaxed about what's going on the beach. Not everybody, obviously, but most of Australia is reasonably cool with that.
Again, this is this culture where we're uncomfortable with nudity. Like in general.
Right. And so
and
what's
the
the
shame
intent?
culture that results for our girls specifically around that is so damaging.
Tricky. I mean, if you go over to Europe, very, very liberal around this, right? I mean, apparently, I haven't been, but apparently nude beaches and things, and there is no sexualized aspect to it. It's simply, I love my body and I'm happy to have it all hanging out while I'm at the beach because it's a natural place and it's a natural state. It feels good. Then you look at some Asian nations and they get upset if there are swimsuits that are shown in a movie. On some airplanes, they used to, I don't know if they still do, but on some countries' airplanes, they would actually edit swimsuit scenes out of movies.
Well,
right?
They have their public baths, so...
Well, that's true, which is nudity.
Completely nude with strangers.
Maybe. Culture is important when it comes to this. Look, I think we need to move on to something that's practical. I want to go back to what you've said. There's something about the intent of both the producer of the material and the person viewing the material where you can help to define a line between pornography and art. But when you're talking to a 6-year-old, probably not going to go there. It's a more nuanced conversation for older kids.
Yeah, and I think as an adult, having a clear rationale and understanding yourself makes a huge difference in your capacity to then have a conversation with a child.
Yeah, and what you're comfortable with and what you're not willing to blacklist.
Your values are going to play a huge part in where this conversation goes.
So I reckon if I was to look at it, I would say this. Pornography is about intensifying sexual feelings. Art is designed to inspire and evoke and promote awe. I think that's probably a way that you could describe it, even to kids, when you're trying to talk about the difference between artistic nudity and pornography.
I know when you and I got married, we had conversations about art in particular because, number one, there is a lot of it. But having grown up in a very conservative home, we never had any kind of nudity on display, or we didn't go to museums and things like that. And for me personally, when I see beautiful art, it actually just leaves me in awe of what my body specifically does, like how it works and just how beautiful it is, how beautiful our human bodies are.
See, I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm feeling a little bit confused because we were in Bali a few years ago and they had a whole lot of wooden carvings, wooden statues, totem poles. You know where I'm going with this, right? And there were a whole lot of penises on them. Like big ones, little ones. They were there and they were right out there for everyone to see. And the kids were like, what's that? What's that? We're like, oh, that's a penis. And then there's that whole thing. I mean, that's not pornography, right? That's art. That's culture.
That's culture.
Maybe we need.
I don't even put that in art.
Maybe
that's
we need
culture.
to get some. Maybe we should bring some Balinese totem poles into our backyard.
That's terrible.
All right, let's talk about what you're supposed to do when the kids stumble across something explicit. Let's see if we can be helpful here because it's going to happen and the way that we respond to it really matters. I want to whiz through this just in a couple of minutes, Kylie. I think we can do it reasonably quickly and reasonably effectively. The first thing that we need to do is make sure that we stay calm and reassure them. If kids encounter anything that's explicit or even if they're just stumbling upon some artistic nudity, we need to let them know that it's okay and that they've come to us to talk and they've done the right thing.
In a perfect world, we're actually going to pre-arm them before they've even seen anything.
Ideally, yeah. And we'll say, if this ever happens, you need to let me know.
Some years ago, I had this very experience with one of our girls. She was looking on my computer. She clicked on a link and up came a very explicit picture. And I was in the room, but I wasn't aware that, I wasn't aware of what she was specifically doing. And in that very instant, she literally slammed the screen down and she looked at me and she said, "Mum, I just saw something." When I opened it up and I saw what she'd seen, I couldn't believe in that moment, I literally wanted to give myself a pat on the back. I couldn't believe that those conversations we'd had actually had gone in and that she acted so it was just instant.
How old was she?
She was 7.
So I think going back to Beth's question, when we're talking about young kids, they want absolutely to do the right thing and they know the difference. They know the difference. They know pornography when they see it.
When I opened the computer up to see what she'd seen, I realised it wasn't actually as scary as as she felt it was,
Yep.
But it was definitely nudity. And I said to her, "I'm so grateful that you told Mummy. If this ever happens, you did the exact thing that I need you to do.
Boom.
Come and tell me." And so when I asked her what made her do it, she said, "It just made me feel funny inside."
Great.
And so we were able to have a conversation about what she was feeling and why she was feeling that. And she knows that if she ever has that experience, that she's not going to get in trouble, that she can come to me and that I will help her to work through that.
Okay, and you've pretty much shared the other tips that I had. So number 1, stay calm and reassure them. Number 2, once you know what they've seen, exit out of the content, close the content, let them know that that's the right thing to do, to shut it down and to walk away from anything that makes them feel uncomfortable. And again, pornography will make them feel uncomfortable. Art, it might leave them curious, but it will usually... the discomfort will be a completely different level of discomfort to what pornography will make them feel. That's such a critical conversation piece. The third thing that I was going to say is seek adult help. Well, guess what? That's what happened in the story. She went straight to you, trusted adult, parent, teacher, counselor, someone, and kids need to know that they can confide in you without getting in trouble and they'll get the guidance and support they need. Fourth thing, have a conversation about boundaries and values. This is what you've done. And then something that you didn't mention is just have a conversation once they're emotionally okay about future media consumption. What do they need to do to be safe? How they can be protected online, how they can avoid harmful content in the future. These are the steps that we go through so that we can make sure that our children are going to be safe because they will be exposed to it. And what matters is who they've got to process it with and how we can help them to be healthy coming out the back.
One of the things that Beth shared was that her son had been watching something on TV or on the internet and it was a baby with a nappy, so a naked baby ultimately. And it just got me thinking, when I was in primary school, remember when we were at that awkward stage and if anyone said anything about a penis or boobs or the whole class
I remember when we used to sing a song, what was it, Kumbaya? There was a song about bosom. I can't remember, the word bosom came up. I mean, bosom is just a beautiful word. It's an old-fashioned word for your chest area. But, oh, my goodness, when we were in primary school, bosom, we would just crack up when we spoke about the bosom of the song. Anyway.
And it just made me think about just how important it is that we talk about our body parts and we use the right names and just make it a normal part of our conversation with our children. It's not something that, we kind of talk about in secret, but we don't talk to everyone about it. This is a conversation that you have with mum and dad.
Beth, we really hope that we've answered your question thoroughly, probably too thoroughly, to be honest. But we hope that this helps everyone with those tricky conversations about these tricky topics with your kids. If you've got a question for us, email us podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. We love it when you send a voice memo. Write out the question, read it into your phone, shoot it through podcasts with an S, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon. From Bridge Media, Craig Bruce is our executive producer. For more information about making your family happier, check out our resources at happyfamilies.com.au. Follow us on all the social medias and sign up for the waitlist for The Quest, the program where we take you from misery to happiness in your family across an extended period of time to make sure that everything's functioning just the right way to help your kids to be resilient and flourish. The Quest, it's the new Happy Families parenting program available now at happyfamilies.com.au.